Shedeur Sanders. He's the first overall pick. Obviously, I'm assuming you guys have a great relationship. Some of the clips you've seen and stuff like that. What is it like for you to have like this rivalry with Shedeur and have it play out the way it has?
I don't have a rivalry with him. That's my boy. So at the end of the day, this whole process, we thought me and him were going to be 1 and 2 the whole time. Whether he's 1, I'm 2. Whether I'm 1, he's 2. And so that's just always been, our mindset. It didn't go that way. But, just coming out of college, even to the draft.
Everyone thought Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders were built to be rivals. First-round picks, FCS underdogs turned NFL hopefuls. But what if I told you the media got it completely wrong? Behind the headlines, these two weren't competing. They were quietly building something way more powerful: respect. While fans were busy debating who should go first, Cam Ward was already backing Shedeur in private conversations. And now, for the first time, he's going public with it. And what he revealed? It flips the entire narrative upside down. Because this isn't just about football stats or draft rankings. This is about the pressure, the misinformation, and the brotherhood no one's been talking about until now. So what's the real story between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders? Let's break down what everyone missed.
I thought he was one of the better quarterbacks in the draft as well, even throughout college. He's been productive where he's been every time. We both started FCS. He was at, Jackson State. I was at Incarnate Word. And that's where really we met for the first time with our quarterback coach when we first got to college. And then he's always been, just a great person to be around. A lot of stuff out there.
Cam Ward didn't come from a powerhouse school, and he didn't ride a wave of national hype to the NFL. But somehow, he still heard his name called in the first round of the draft. Something most analysts never saw coming. Born and raised in West Columbia, Texas, Ward's path wasn't lined with 5-star offers or ESPN spotlights. He started off at Incarnate Word, an FCS school most fans have never even heard of. But that didn't stop him from rewriting record books, torching defenses, and forcing people to put some respect on his name. When he made the jump to Washington State, some questioned whether he could handle the pressure at a bigger program. But Ward kept delivering, throwing for over 6,000 yards and proving he could go toe-to-toe with Power 5 talent. Quietly, he was building a case the media couldn't ignore: a playmaker with arm talent, pocket presence, and cold-blooded confidence. Fast forward to draft night, and the unthinkable happened. Cam Ward went in the first round.
On him ain't really, the truth. Just because they spin it different ways, like they spin stuff about me different ways. But I've always thought he was a productive quarterback. A lot of people may have their own opinion. I have mine as well. But when he gets his chance, to become a starter, I know he's gonna make the most of it. And I'm ready to get back to work with him. After the season, talk some more stuff to him, say some crazy stuff. We just gonna keep on pushing each other.
The moment was a reminder that talent doesn't care about where you start, only how hard you push. But just as he stepped into the spotlight, questions about his rivalry with another rising star, Shedeur Sanders, started bubbling up. And that's when the story really took a turn. Before the NFL buzz, before the media speculation, and before the draft day drama, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders were just two young quarterbacks trying to make something out of nothing. And surprisingly, their journeys started on nearly parallel tracks. Both began their college careers in the FCS, a level that's often ignored by the mainstream media and overlooked by NFL scouts. Shedeur was at Jackson State, under the brightest spotlight anyone in the FCS had ever seen, thanks to his father, Coach Prime. Meanwhile, Cam Ward was carving out a name for himself at Incarnate Word, tucked away in the heart of Texas, out of the public eye, but not out of the grind. But here's what almost no one knew back then. They shared the same quarterback coach. That connection brought them together before the spotlight ever did. They trained together, learned from the same playbooks, critiqued each other. The media never caught it, but behind the scenes, A bond was forming, rooted in shared experience and mutual respect. There wasn't any beef, only competitiveness. They weren't circling each other like enemies, but pushing each other to rise faster, work harder, and prove everyone wrong. And as they both ascended into national relevance, that quiet connection followed them. Even when fans were arguing who was better or which one deserved a higher draft ranking, Cam and Shedeur were in contact, watching each other's film, comparing notes privately, and working toward one shared goal: to dominate. The rivalry wasn't real, but the grind, the hustle, that was all facts. And yet, once the cameras came out, the media had a completely different story to tell. As Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders climbed the ranks, the media did what it always does. It tried to turn the story into a battle. Two black quarterbacks, both from FCS schools, both with swagger, arm strength, and something to prove. The setup was too perfect, and to the media, it screamed rivalry. Headlines started framing them as competitors. Social media lit up with debates. Who's better? Who's more NFL ready? Who's just hype? And it didn't help that Shedeur's name was already hot. His touchdowns were going viral. His father's presence on the sidelines gave every moment a headline hook. Cam, on the other hand, was gaining traction more quietly, but just as effectively. The comparisons were inevitable, even if they were completely overstated. Fans started to buy into it, creating tension where there wasn't any. They treated it like a boxing match that hadn't even been scheduled yet. Cam versus Shedeur, pick a side. But while people on the outside stoked the fire, Cam and Shedeur weren't playing that game. Because what the media never showed was that these two weren't fueled by hate. They were motivated by respect. The so-called rivalry never came from them. And in one podcast interview, Cam Ward would finally lift the curtain and expose a truth most people never expected to hear. Because when Cam spoke about Shedeur, he didn't sound like a rival. He sounded like a fan, a friend, and possibly his strongest supporter. When Cam Ward sat down for an interview on the Deep Ball podcast, most people expected the usual draft talk, team fit, preparation, maybe a story or two from the combine. But what no one expected was Cam publicly setting the record straight about Shedeur Sanders. The hosts asked about their so-called rivalry, and without hesitation, Cam shut it down. "I don't have a rivalry with him. That's my boy." That single line flipped the entire narrative. Cam went on to explain that ever since college, he and Shedeur had envisioned going 1 and 2 in the draft, regardless of who came first. That wasn't ego. That was mutual respect. That was confidence in each other's ability. He openly praised Shedeur's performance, calling him one of the better quarterbacks in the draft, and said he had been productive everywhere he played, from Jackson State to Colorado. And then Cam dropped perhaps the most telling line of all. "A lot of the stuff out there on Shedeur ain't really the truth." It was a subtle shot at the narratives fans and media had been swallowing for months. The "he's too flashy" slander. The "he isn't NFL ready" criticism. The constant downplay of his skills because of the family name. Cam continued, saying they still talk, still train, and still push each other. There's no hostility, only ambition. He even joked about linking up after the season to talk crazy, trash talk style, the way brothers do. That interview wasn't just clarification. It was a reality check for fans, doubters, and every media outlet that tried to build friction between two young stars who were actually lifting each other up. As the 2024 NFL Draft approached, Shedeur Sanders' name was everywhere, and for good reason. He was putting up serious numbers at Colorado, proving time and time again that he could hold his own at the Power 5 level. Analysts praised everything from his accuracy to his poise in the pocket. So when the draft came and his name wasn't called, fans were stunned, But here's where things get complicated. Some said it was a brilliant business move, that Shedeur and his father Deion Sanders were playing the long game. Why enter the draft as a mid-round pick when one more dominant season could make you a top 3 lock in 2025? From that angle, it made sense. But others weren't so sure. Online speculation exploded. Rumors started circulating that Shedeur may have been advised to delay his NFL entry to avoid being drafted by struggling franchises. Some insiders claim there was hesitance from certain front offices who felt he brought baggage, not from his performance, but from the spotlight surrounding the Sanders name. And then, of course, there was the narrative that Shedeur was too Hollywood, too flashy, too focused on branding. People questioned his maturity, his leadership, even his character, despite teammates raving about his work ethic and coaches backing his growth at every turn. It created a double narrative, public praise paired with private doubt. And while no one could say for sure what really kept Shedeur out of the 2024 draft, one thing was clear. His absence reshaped the conversation, turned up the pressure, and made his eventual arrival in 2025 even more scrutinized. What was seen as his setback could turn out to be his chess move. In sports, rivalry sells, but not every competition is built on hate, and Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are proof of that. Behind the headlines and Twitter debates, their connection is something different. It's not enemies locked in a battle for draft position. It's two young quarterbacks competing the only way that matters, by pushing each other to be better, not tearing each other down. They've trained side by side, watched film together, shared the same quarterback coach since their early college years. While fans argued over who had the stronger arm or more NFL swagger, these two were already on FaceTime, throwing out plays, giving feedback, cracking jokes, keeping each other locked in. And that trash talk, oh, it's real, but it's the kind that happens between brothers. Cam even mentioned that after the NFL season, he and Shedeur are planning to get back in the lab. Not just training, but talking their shit, hyping each other up, and keeping that fire burning. Because for them, the real competition isn't personal. It's about legacy. They both came up through the FCS when no one was watching. They both weathered doubt, noise, and non-stop media twists. And now, they're betting on each other to succeed. It's not rivalry. It's respect driven by competitiveness. And maybe that's exactly what the next generation of quarterbacks is about. Pushing limits without needing to play the villain. The 2025 NFL Draft is shaping up to be one of the most watched in recent memory, and all eyes are on Shedeur Sanders. After choosing to stay another year at Colorado, the pressure on Shedeur has skyrocketed. He's no longer flying under the radar. Every snap, every play, every decision is dissected. He's not just competing to go top 5. He's competing against a narrative that's been building around him for years. Some scouts are already calling him a future star. They point to his footwork, vision, and composure as traits rarely found in college-level QBs. Others, more skeptical, still question whether he can lead an NFL franchise without the presence of his father on the sideline. And that's part of what makes this next season so heavy. It's not just about stats. It's about leadership, growth, silence in the face of criticism. Shedeur won't just have to play well. He'll have to prove he belongs. In a league that still questions his path, his personality, and his patience. Meanwhile, Cam Ward is already in the league, already grinding through his rookie year, already setting the bar high. Their paths may have diverged, but all signs point to them intersecting again, sooner than you think. Because if 2024 was Cam's breakout, 2025 might just be Shedeur's takeover. But can he handle the spotlight that never seems to turn off? We're about to find out. For months, the media tried to script a rivalry. Cam Ward versus Shedeur Sanders. Two rising stars who started at small schools, dominated the FCS, and made their way into national headlines. It made for a compelling story, but it wasn't the real one, because behind all the hot takes and draft debates was something far more powerful: brotherhood. Cam didn't take the bait. When he had the chance to feed the narrative, he flipped it. He didn't call Shedeur a competitor. He called him family. He praised his game, backed his leadership, and reminded everyone that not all top-tier athletes need to tear each other down to rise. Sometimes they build each other up in silence, off camera, in workouts, on phone calls most people will never hear about. And Shedeur? He's about to step onto the biggest stage of his life, carrying a name that's as loved as it is criticized. But he won't be alone, because while fans are still arguing over stats, Cam Ward will be watching, just like he always has, waiting to see his brother shine. So maybe this was never a rivalry after all. Maybe it was a partnership in disguise, one the media never understood. One thing's for sure, when Shedeur enters the league, all those questions people had, they won't matter, because he'll have already answered the most important one, not just with his game, but with the people who truly know him.